What's up YouTube, it's the Equipment Junkie here, and today we are going to be testing the 2021 ProV1 and ProV1x golf balls, and also comparing them to the prior generation golf balls to see the differences and see what you can expect when you switch into the new golf ball. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so a couple days ago Titleist sent us the brand new ProV1 and ProV1x to test. We were able to do some really good testing on TrackMan and also do a little bit of chipping and putting indoors to see the feel differences between the new and prior generation golf balls. Unfortunately, due to the fact that we're under about 4 feet of snow in Chicago, we weren't able to hit outside, we weren't able to see those aerodynamic differences that Titleist is pushing in the new golf ball. There's a new dimple pattern. They're saying that it's going to react a little bit differently outside than the prior generation, and we can neither confirm nor deny that because, of course, like I said, we have not actually tested them outside. But nonetheless, we did get some really good testing done, and I am going to kind of compare the golf balls, give you my thoughts, and then just kind of let you know what to expect with the new models. Alright guys, so we're going to start with the ProV1x model because this is the model I actually play. I played the 2019 ProV1x since it came out in 2019, and so this is definitely the model I was most interested in testing. What we did is we hit a lot of different shots inside using a lot of different clubs, but for the numbers I'm going to put up on the screen here, we did 5 ball tests with a 54-degree wedge, my sand wedge, trying to hit a 100-yard shot. Then we did full 7-irons and full drivers. I wanted to get groups together of similar shots. I didn't want to have any skewed numbers, any like complete mishits. So within these groups, they're very similar shots. I definitely had a mishit or two within the groups, but I wanted to make sure I had, say, 1 or 2 mishits and 3 good hits, as opposed to like 4 mishits and 1 good hit, where you're going to see numbers skewed. So definitely made sure we did that, but we also did some additional testing where they're not in groups, so I could see feel and I could see differences that I was noticing myself that maybe the numbers weren't showing. Okay guys, so what we're going to do is I'm going to put some numbers on the screen here and just kind of talk you through what I was noticing with the golf balls. Very similar. There was some articles I was reading saying this is the biggest change since the ProV1 originally came out. A lot of crazy different things. In my overall opinion, I'm just going to be upfront and say they're very similar golf balls. If you have a bunch of 2019 ProV1x's, there's not a huge change, but there are some key things. So when you look at a 100-yard wedge shot, spin is within 40 RPMs on a 100-yard wedge shot, which is pretty crazy. Ball speed's almost identical, launch angle almost identical, and height is the exact same. On a 100-yard wedge shot, these golf balls are literally identical. They're basically the same golf ball. Now, like I said earlier in the video, we weren't able to test them outside, so there is a possibility you might see some differences in height or some differences in how it reacts with the wind outside, and I want that to be known because, of course, we did our testing inside. But as far as these numbers go, we're looking at carry almost the exact same, spin rate almost the exact same, 10,100 RPMs, launch angle within 0.4 degrees, height's the exact same. So very similar on the wedge shots. When we move into a 7-iron, what we're going to see is ball speed within 1/8 of a mile per hour of each other. And what's interesting is my club head speed, which I'll put up here, was slightly lower on the older model golf ball, which is potentially why the ball speed was slower. Again, very similar launch angle. They're within 0.4 degrees of each other launch angle wise. Height, the new one was 4 feet higher. 124 feet of height versus 120 feet of height on the old golf ball. Carry within 0.4 yards. Spin within 50 RPM. Actually 40 RPM of each other. Very similar. Very similar. When we look at driver, I'll throw some driver numbers up here. With the old golf ball, I was flying at 290.5. With the new golf ball, I was flying at 290.9. Spin is within 50 RPM. Ball speed slightly higher on the new golf ball, 166.8 versus 166.3. But that is potentially because I swung it a little bit slower when I was hitting the older golf ball. I was only 111.5 with the 2019 model, and I was 112.1 with the 2021 model. New model, slightly higher, very similar golf balls. Very similar. Again, if you're playing a 2019 model, you aren't gonna see a huge jump in numbers as far as numbers go. You're not gonna see a huge jump from the 2019 model to the 2021 model. And there's potential that if you look at these and really analyze them and you look at smash factor and things like that and efficiency, there's potential that the 2019 model actually has higher ball speed efficiency-wise compared to the 2021 model. I don't want to make that claim because, again, it depends where you hit it on the face. It depends how fast your club head speed is. But they're very, very similar golf balls numbers-wise. As far as putting and chipping went, there were some claims out there that I saw the new golf balls are supposed to be a little bit softer. I actually found the new golf ball to be slightly firmer. I shouldn't say firmer. I should say a little bit more solid feeling. I really like the feel of the 2019 model, but the 2021 model is just felt slightly more solid. Maybe a medium milled putter face to a very light milled putter face. You know, it's not a huge difference, still milled, but just a slightly more solid feel on a firmer, on a lightly milled putter face as opposed to a medium milled. Such a small difference that 99.99% of golfers aren't going to feel it, but I just found that it was slightly firmer. So that's the 2019 and 2021 ProV1x models. When we look at the models for the ProV1, which is the golf ball I don't play. I do not play a ProV1. I like the spin of the V1x. I like the ball speed of the V1x. It's really good around the greens, so that's why I choose this golf ball. As far as the ProV1 numbers go, similar, very, very similar. So when we look at the ProV1, we're going to look at a wedge shot here. Carry within 0.6 yards of each other. Spin is lower. On the new model, actually, this is where the biggest difference came. The spin rate was about 400 RPM less on that 100-yard wedge shot compared to the older model. And it also launched slightly lower, 0.6 of a degree. Not much, slightly lower. Height, 2 feet lower. Carries about the same. Ball speed's the exact same, but just a little bit less spin on the new model is what I noticed for the wedge shot I was testing. So as far as 7-irons go, very slight differences as well. Spin rate in the 2019 model, 6,650 RPM. In the 2021 model, 6,760 RPM. Carry was within 1/10 of a yard. The new model went 1/10 of a yard further, but again, not a huge difference. Ball speed almost identical, within 0.3 of a mile per hour. And again, I actually swung the club a mile per hour slower when we were looking at the 2019 model. So there could be some claim that the efficiency of the 2019 model is actually better than that of the 2021 model, which I find pretty interesting, right? Because you see a new golf ball, it's supposed to be better, it's supposed to be more efficient, but based on these numbers, you could claim, and even with the ProV1x model, that efficiency-wise, the older model is actually potentially slightly more efficient. Heights within 1 foot, very similar golf balls. Very, very similar golf balls, but I find it interesting that on the wedge, we had lower spin with the new model, and on the iron, we actually had a little bit of higher spin with the new model. When we look at drivers, we're looking at carry 284 with the old model, 285.3 with the new model. Spin is within 90 RPM, very, very close. Ball speed, a little higher on the new model, but again,
Club speed was down. So ball speed was up 1.1 miles an hour on the 2021 model versus the 2019 model, 164.4 miles per hour ball speed with the 2019 model, 165.5 miles an hour ball speed with the new model. But we also swung the club 1 mile per hour slower with the old model. So that's probably the ball speed difference. That's probably why we're seeing that little drop in ball speed. Height within 3 feet of each other. I mean, guys, they're very similar golf balls. Very, very similar. Another thing I'll note is, again, with this golf ball compared to the older model, it just felt slightly more solid. It didn't feel softer, which I'm hearing a lot of claims that the new ball is supposed to be softer. I didn't see that. I actually felt like the new ball just felt slightly more solid. I actually like the feel of the new golf ball. I like things that are slightly more solid because for me and most amateurs playing on courses without super fast greens, more slow greens, you could probably say, you actually probably want something slightly firmer, a firmer putter face, a heavier putter, a firmer golf ball, because it's going to help you get putts to the hole. It's going to help you get shots to the hole when you're hitting on softer greens, slower greens. So that being said, I actually like that slightly firmer feel. I think that's actually a plus in the new golf ball. I think the moral to the story behind these golf balls is if you have a stash of 8 or 10 dozen 2019 ProV1x's, don't flip out. Don't go crazy. Don't worry that the new one came out. I got to get the new one. It's just not a huge difference. It's so slight, and you could almost claim in certain areas that the old golf ball is actually better than the new golf ball. That being said, they're great. Titleist kills it in the golf ball area, the golf ball zone, whatever you want to call it. Another great product. They always do a really good job, which is, the reason I play these. I'm a brand agnostic player, and I play Titleist golf balls because, in my opinion, they're the best on the market.
All right, guys, so now that we've compared the golf balls side by side generation-wise, 2019 versus 2021, I wanted to compare these two golf balls side by side, same year to same year. So if we look at the box here, I thought this would be the best way to kind of do it. If we look at the box here, you'll see we have different, you could call them claims, you could call them what Titleist sees when they test on a robot, and whatever you call them. What I'm going to try to do is either validate or invalidate what the box says based on what I was seeing. And I think it'll be interesting because I wasn't seeing everything the same as how they list it, but they were definitely not far off. So let's start with feel. So feel, the claim is that the ProV1 is softer feeling than the ProV1x. As you can see, it says softer versus soft. I'm going to validate this claim. Check mark. So it's very close, but blind side-by-side testing, I did feel like the ProV1 was slightly softer. I mean, I could barely tell. It was almost to the point where it was almost hard to tell. But if I had to say and pick one that was softer, I would have went with the ProV1, and that was based on blind testing. When we look at flight, ProV1 versus ProV1x, it says the ProV1 is a mid-flight golf ball and the ProV1x is a high-flight golf ball. When we look at the wedge shots, they basically fly the exact same height, 72 feet versus 72 and 74 feet. Basically the same. When we look at the irons, the ProV1x did fly higher with the irons. It was, I think, 5 to 9 feet higher with the irons. So like 115 and 116 versus 120 and 124. So it was higher with the irons. With the driver, the ProV1x actually flighted a little bit lower. So, and it was about a foot lower. It wasn't much lower, but it was about a foot lower, 2 feet lower. This is a hard claim. Based on what I'm seeing, the wedges and driver were close and the irons were higher. So I'm going to give this a check mark because I do believe that aside from the ones being close, the irons did fly higher, which would average it out to meaning the ProV1x flew slightly higher. Again, close. I think outside, definitely the ProV1x is a little higher flying, but it's close. All right, guys, so the next thing up is long game spin. ProV1, very low long game spin according to Titleist. ProV1x, low long game spin. This is a tough one. With the driver, the ProV1x actually spun less than the ProV1.
So that being said, the X would be the lower spin ball, which would actually invalidate this claim. That being said, with some long iron testing and fairway wood testing I did, the ProV1x actually spun higher than the ProV1. So this is a tough one to call. It's going to vary person to person, but I'm just going to go NA because it's hard to claim that one is right or one is wrong, because although it was higher with the irons in the ProV1x and some of the fairway woods, it was lower in the drivers. So yeah, I'm not sure about that one. Iron spin, ProV1, less iron spin, ProV1x, more iron spin, 100% true. Easy check mark. It was clearly higher spinning in the ProV1x. Short game spin, high. They are both pretty good around the greens. But in my opinion, this should say higher. They should change this. It should say high and then higher. Because around the greens, the ProV1x, based on my testing outside, and again, I didn't test these specific balls outside, but in the past, the ProV1x has always been higher spinning around the greens for me. The 2019 version was especially higher spinning around the greens. So I think they should change that. And although I wasn't outside, I was able to do some chipping inside, 20, 30, 40-foot chips and pitches, and to me it definitely seemed like the ProV1x was checking more inside. So I don't think this claim is particularly wrong, but I think they should change this to high and higher. That being said, most of the claims pretty much right on. Long game spin, tough call, and around the greens, I do think the ProV1x is a little higher spinning golf ball. So comparing these two, 2021 to 2021, this is the results I'm seeing. Of course, you absolutely should test these yourself, and you should come to your own conclusions, but based on what I did in my testing, this is what I saw. So I just kind of wanted to point that out and show you guys what my thoughts were when we're comparing the ProV1 versus the ProV1x, same years. All right, guys, so the last thing I want to do here is compare the little alignment A's on the 2019 versus 2021 model golf balls. This is the 2019 model, Titleist Red 1, of course, red for ProV1x. And then this is the alignment feature. It has two arrows on the right and left sides with ProV1x in the middle. Pretty much what we're always used to. And then when we look at the 2021 model golf ball, again, red Titleist 1 per usual, but this one actually has two arrows with, instead of solid arrow lines, there's little two arrow pieces on the right and left, and then ProV1x in the middle. So a little bit different. If you're just putting a Sharpie line over it, like most people do, you're really not going to notice this, and you're really not going to care. But I just figured I'd show this little difference here because it definitely is not the exact same as the previous model, which would make sense because obviously you want to know when you're testing them or when you're using the new model, you know, which one actually is the new model, and you can easily tell by the new alignment feature. All right, guys, so that's review. The 2019 versus 2021 ProV1 and ProV1x golf ball models. As I said, Titleist still doing a great job, still killing it, but I wouldn't worry too much about having the new golf ball. I don't think you're going to see major differences as far as numbers go, but I do highly recommend going outside, taking them outside, doing testing yourself so you can see differences. Maybe you see some differences in the wind aerodynamics wise, because that again is something Titleist is claiming, that new dimple pattern should make a little bit of a difference as far as aerodynamics go and flight goes outside. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, comment. Follow us on our other social media channels, and we will see you in the next video. And if you have any questions about these golf balls, any questions you want to ask me on my thoughts about them, or any other equipment questions, be sure to shoot us a DM on Instagram or just comment on this YouTube video, and I'll do my best to answer and hopefully give you guys a good and in-depth response that could hopefully help you with your golf equipment as you continue to try to get better in this very, very difficult game. But for now, that's it. We will check you in the next video. Peace out.